New tonight at 9, a Colorado judge rejects an effort to keep former President Donald Trump from appearing on the state's primary ballot. The lawsuit tried to block Trump's run for another term using a Civil War-era constitutional amendment. It prevents anyone who, quote, engaged in insurrection from holding office. In her decision, District Judge Sarah B. Wallace determined the clause did not apply to Trump. It is the third ruling in a little over a week against a lawsuit seeking to knock Trump off the ballot. And joining us now with more insight on today's ruling and the week in politics, political analyst Paul Lisnek. Paul, good to see you again.
Good Friday night, guys.
Yeah, so let's start with that kind of late-breaking news on Trump here. Was that ever really a serious threat? It failed in Michigan and in Minnesota.
So, yes, it was a real threat. The judge's ruling is interesting here because what she decided was that Trump was part of an insurrection. She kind of found the facts to be true, but then went on to say, but the presidency is not an officer of the United States. It's an interesting holding because he's also, head of the military and stuff, but she determined not covered by the 14th Amendment. Different from the argument in Minnesota where they said, well, the parties control the primaries, so we're not going to get involved, but we'll revisit this for the general election. So the real question is, does this make its way to the Supreme Court? In Colorado, I think it will go to the Colorado Supreme Court. I think the reality of it is, until a state removes Trump off a ballot, I don't think the Supreme Court will take it. But as soon as a state, and it could be Colorado if they reverse this judge because they say the presidency is an officer, then I think the Supreme Court pretty much has to take it, and there'll be a more final resolution.
Okay.
Let's come to Chicago. Mayor Johnson getting his first budget passed unanimously.
Yeah.
It also includes a huge chunk of money for the migrants. Also, Pritzker is going to give 160, well, not personally, but 160.
He could.
Yeah, well, he sure could. $160 million for the migrants. Very contentious issue because we've got a lot of homeless people who aren't getting help. And this help is for the migrants. What's the feeling out there? What's the barometer looking like?
Well, look, that's a great question to ask aldermen, many of whom would tell you, yes, I'm under a lot of pressure from my constituents who say exactly what you are, Micah, that my concern are constituents. And by the way, the budget wasn't a total unanimity. There were some people who did go against different parts of it. But the bottom line to it is,
it passed.
But it did pass. And you kind of wonder, since it was only a day before, or a day after, I should say, that Pritzker announced the extra $160 million, did Johnson know that was coming? Because his budget cut the migrant budget from what he has said is needed. He says we need $200 million a year, and he only put $150. So I'm going to guess that he knew that Pritzker was going to come up with, and it's federal money, it's out of the Department of Homeland Security funding. Then Pritzker's already said we're going to use part of it to build a warm tent area and those kinds of things. We'll see. Everything is temporary because none of this is going to be permanent, but it does probably get Chicago through the winter period, and then things will continue.
Let me ask one more question about this. The migrant issue is hot right now. Tons of migrants are coming into town. But we've had a homelessness problem for a long, long time. Why is everyone so excited about trying to solve the migrant crisis without solving the crisis that's already at home?
Again,
and
Micah,
has been here the whole
it is
time?
the question that's being raised, but I think the question you're asking is why are we looking at this issue and not the homeless issue?
Or let's look at them both at the same time, maybe.
Or the real estate transfer tax.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Yeah. The homelessness issue gets addressed through the real estate transfer tax once the public votes on it. And so if Chicagoans say, yes, we need to help the homeless, they'll pass that constitutional change, and then there will be. So not a constitutional change, but they'll pass that law, and that will be. I think one of the reasons the migrant issue is getting so much pressure is because buses are showing up every single day. So the homeless
but homeless people have been here forever.
I was out of town at the beginning of the week, and I came in, I was at O'Hare, and I hadn't seen this with my own eyes, but there on the lower level of part of O'Hare and Terminal 1, filled with migrants. As far as the eyes could see, beds and kids and all that sort of stuff.
Children.
So it lets you know that this has to be addressed. It doesn't mean the homeless problem isn't important. It certainly is. But the mayor's got to find a way to deal with both. But for right now, with buses showing up every day, he's trying to figure out how to handle that influx.
Seems to be like so much a money issue. Speaking of money and budgeting, let's look at the congressional level right now. We have a temporary spending bill.
We're good till January.
Yeah, till January, and then
it's
we
all
go
over
through
again.
it all over again,
Right.
and in February.
There's actually two. That's right. There's a January date and a February date, and the reason is they passed this in two parts. The Senate went along with it, and I think it's because everybody said Thanksgiving's coming, I'm out of here. They weren't happy about it. No Ukraine funding, no Israel funding. Remember that the House did pass an Israel bill, but it defunded the IRS by $14 billion, and that's what the Senate said, that's a no-go. So some Republicans then tweeted out, look, the Senate doesn't support Israel. Not exactly a fair statement. What they didn't support was defunding the IRS.
And Johnson had to get Democratic help with this. That got Kevin McCarthy yanked from
Yeah,
his
in fact,
job.
actually, in the numbers, it's primarily a democratically supported bill. That's who really went for this, which does have. There were like 90 of the Republicans who didn't go for it. They are angry, so they would think, well, they're going to dump him like they did McCarthy. The truth is, I think they're going to cut him a little slack. What he has done to try and appease them, he announced just today that he's going to be releasing the thousands of hours of January 6th footage.
Security footage.
That was a promise he made to Matt
But
Gaetz and
now
others.
he's appeasing the far right now,
Yeah.
right?
Well, he is. That's why he's doing it,
Yeah.
right? So that buys him a little time. And the other thing he did just the other day, if you go back a week or so, he said he didn't really have an appetite for the impeachment proceedings, certainly on President Biden, wasn't seeing anything. And now just the other day, he issued a statement saying, I wholeheartedly support this and move forward. So I think to strike the budget deal he did, which meant working with
Right.
Democrats, which made him no Republican friends,
No.
he then has put some of these other things out
So
there.
he's kind
to
of probably
appease
like
them.
going,
Playing both sides.
Well, pretty much. And the
Yeah.
question is, how long can he play that game and appease people? I guess it depends. If the impeachment thing goes somewhere, okay. By the way, when the footage comes out, I'm already seeing people tweeting, wait till people see that there was nothing happening. We'll see what that footage really shows, and we'll see how it gets addressed.
Finally, George Santos.
Yeah.
Seems not long for Congress after the ethics report came out here. And then he said he's not going to run again.
So I think what he's trying to do is by saying he's not going to run again, that was his way of sort of hoping this thing might go away in terms of his expulsion. But the motion for his expulsion
That's gonna take
was
a while.
filed today.
It's going to take a while.
Well, there probably will be a vote towards the end of next week because there's certain times it has to sit and whatever. Probably towards the end of next week. There are some Republicans who voted not to expel him before who now said they would. I don't think it's some have said, oh, he's out, it's going to happen. I don't think I would claim that. I think it's going to be a close vote. There are still people who say, look, let when he's convicted, because by the way, the House has never expelled anybody that hasn't been convicted of something. This would be a first, and it hasn't happened in a very long time. So it's going to be a close vote. He could get expelled. We'll see.
What's on your show this week?
Hey, so this weekend we're going to have Congressman Darren LaHood. We'll talk about all this stuff that we've just been talking about in the new
Oh,
speaker.
you can just use all this and just, you don't have to have a show. You just
Can we
use
run the
this.
clip?
Yeah,
Let's just run a
the
clip.
whole
Press
thing.
play.
Yeah,
That'd
exactly.
be new and fresh, and talking to him
Yeah.
about all of that, and also getting his sense of the future of the impeachment and all of that. Next Wednesday on the Midday Show, where I do some of my author interviews, this is really interesting. I'm talking to a guy named Paul Landis. He's the last surviving Secret Service agent who was with President Kennedy, who did not protect the life of the president that day. But he made some news, because I'll just kind of let you know about this. Remember the bullet that was found? They found this full bullet. That was the basis of all these conspiracy theories. He's the guy that found it.
Oh.
And he tells the story of what he did with it and why he did it. It ends up on the gurney. Remember that famous story? He's the guy. So he's in his 80s now. We talked, and we're going to run that on Wednesday, because that, of course, is the anniversary, 60th anniversary of President Kennedy's assassination. I know.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, guys.
Have a good weekend.
Great Thanksgiving.
You too.
Thank you.
As well.